Hi folks, Salvation Gate, March 31st, 2018. George Shevchuk here. Want to talk to you about something that could solve most of the world's problems. Energy, the main thing is energy. And I might as well just spit it right out and then we'll talk about it some more. Thorium is what we're going to be talking about. Thorium molten salt reactors. There's a lot of information about it on YouTube and in general on the internet. But for some reason it's not catching fire. And I think that the reason is because a lot of people misunderstand it. And another reason is that a lot of what's going on is scientists talking to other scientists, and there's not a large appeal being made to the general public. Thorium, molten salt, nuclear reactor is something that has already been achieved, and there was an operating reactor in Tennessee, I believe in Oak Ridge Laboratories, and it was operated, I think, during the 70s. And the thing about thorium molten salt reactors is that they're a completely different configuration than what we're currently using with uranium reactors and what they call solid fuel reactors. I'll try to explain it to you in the best way I can, but there's more detailed explanations available in many places. Instead of having solid fuel rods, what you actually have is the thorium mixed in with molten hot salt, and it's a much more efficient way to get the heat out. Also, it's safe because if there's any type of overheating, it's designed so that there is a plug that melts and everything drains down into a chamber where there's no type of a meltdown is possible. So you can never have a Chernobyl or a Fukushima or a 3 Mile Island. These things just wouldn't happen with a thorium molten salt reactor. The other thing about thorium is when you do the math and the physics on it, because of the efficiency of it and the quantity of thorium that's available in the world, actually thorium is a byproduct for a lot of other industries, and it's connected to essential minerals that are used in solid state equipment, and it goes hand in hand. So the benefits are multiple. It could revolutionize technology and medicine. It could solve the world's energy problems. From what I've read, there's enough thorium in the world to provide abundant energy for the world, cheap energy, for 1,000 years. So you say the thing is that the evidence seems to be there. There doesn't seem to be a lot of scientific debate. There are some nuances, like for example, there is a special type of a nickel alloyed metal that needs to be used to resist the coercive effects of corrosion, the corrosive effects of molten salt. But these metals exist, and there is also another nuance in the sense that thorium just doesn't happen by itself like a runaway reaction. It needs to be activated, and it needs to have a side system that basically works in conjunction with the thorium molten salt reactor when it produces heat. That's sort of similar like a biological alternative, something similar to like your kidneys filtering out and rejuvenating the energy and putting it back into the core. But these things are well within the capability of science today. The reason why I'm speaking to you about this is because I've been monitoring all different types of energy inventions, and some of them are very suspicious, and some of them are denied by the establishment media. I tend to believe that they have relevance to them. I guess for you folks that follow the YouTube and follow the free energy videos, you probably know that the two basic designs that come up are the Cyril generator, which has different types of metal and alloys that are it's initially, starts with an energy source that causes it to spin, but apparently between the magnetism and the physics of this Cyril generator, I think it's Searle, the gentleman that invented it is quite elderly now, and I often wondered how come he was not killed, because other people that have invented free energy devices that had to do with converting water to hydrogen, many of them have died mysterious deaths. There was a fellow by the name of John Kansas, and his last name is not like the state, it's sort of, I think, like Kanzious, and he came up with a design and mysteriously passed away shortly thereafter. He was ill, so it kind of would have gone unnoticed, but one of the scientists from Penn State University followed up on his experimentation and also achieved the same success when he bombarded salt water with a certain electromagnetic frequency and was able to loosen the bonds, I guess it would be the chemical bonds between the salt and the water and have them recombine, and caused emission of heat, a flame. The salt water would be burning like a torch. You could check out John Kansas YouTube for yourself on YouTube. It's a pretty interesting video. So this scientist takes the results of his test and he duplicates it successfully, and he calls in the media, and within a week or two this guy is dead also. That's when it caught my attention, because that statistically is highly unlikely. And then when you add that to other people and stories, there was a fellow, I forgot his first name, but his last name was Stanley, and he developed a car that also ran on hydrogen, that was produced from water, the famous car that ran on water. And you start realizing that those people that stumbled upon that technology were putting their lives in danger. And because apparently that's something that could be done, and it could be done without a lot of sophisticated equipment, and probably without a high degree of scientific knowledge. But the Cyril generator, this fellow lived to a ripe old age, and I'm guessing the reason is because there were rare earth elements involved in his design of his Cyril generator that are not that easy to get. So they could show people this free energy device, because that's not something that the average Joe is going to be able to duplicate. You're going to have to machine and manufacture cylinders and parts, and everything has to be in tight specs, and I can understand why that was not an issue. So I mean, I was following this even when I was a teenager. I remember reading Popular Science magazine, when it was really a magazine that was worth reading way back then. And even then they were talking about satellites that would be orbiting the Earth in geosynchronous orbits, and they would be collecting the energy from the sun out in space, and they would beam this energy down to Earth in large microwave beams, and then that microwave energy would be converted to electricity here on the Earth. And if they were to build a system like this, it would provide the Earth with all the energy we'd ever need forever. It'd be a big initial expense, but the bottom line is that once it's built, the Earth would have all the energy we'd ever need. So we're always looking for some type of abundance and cheap energy. And then thorium comes along. We read about thorium and we realize, the thorium looks like it's the ticket. This is the ticket. And this is for real. This is not like some theory. This is scientists that have actually made it work. You've got science, and I think that we probably would not have even found out about thorium if it wasn't for India and Norway moving forward with their own thorium nuclear reactor programs. That I think that because of that, the issue was forced to be brought out into the open, and that's why we started seeing information about thorium. I've started seeing it for the first time like maybe a year or 2 years ago. But before that, I don't remember seeing anything about it. So I think that this information is now becoming available because it was something that the establishment was forced to make available. But it's not catching on, and again, I think that's because there's so few people that realize what is available here. And that's what I want to explain to you in this video. First of all, thorium, not only would it be plentiful, not only would it make electricity inexpensively, not only would do these reactors, they don't have to be huge monsters, they could be much smaller. You could probably fit a reactor into the size of a small house, like a Cape Cod. But in addition to that, thorium would end the whole global warming problem. The whole global warming problem would go away for two reasons. Number one, you would not be contributing to this atmospheric pollution with fuels, carbon-based fuels that you'd be burning. That wouldn't be happening anymore. And number two, the heat from thorium reactors can be used to make biochar. Now, if you know anything about biochar, biochar is converting wood into biochar, and biochar is sort of like charcoal, and it's a great way to sequester carbon out of the earth, out of the atmosphere. And once you make this biochar, you crunkle it up, you put it into the ground, and it stays in the ground for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And as this, in addition, to sequestering the carbon out of the atmosphere, it also is a fantastic aid to food production. Once this biochar becomes activated with nutrients, it holds on to those nutrients, and it provides a fantastic source for feeding whatever you're growing in that soil. It becomes the traditional dark, rich, black soil that is good for growing food. So you have multiple benefits. You have the production of biochar. You have increased food production. You have the reduction of carbon in the atmosphere because you're sequestering it into the ground by making biochar with all this excess heat that you would have up and above the way you need for making electricity through the use of steam. By making biochar, you would be able to take vast areas of land like Siberia or Canada or Iceland, and you can convert that into greenhouses that grow food for the planet, because it would be so inexpensive to create heat and temperature control areas that now economically are not feasible. You could develop the Antarctic. All kinds of amazing things can be done. Once you have this kind of heat produced so economically efficiently